know everyone's pretty Zoom weary, so I'm going to try to keep this short and to the point, I hope. So you can raise your hands and yell at me if I start getting too long-winded, which is my tendency. So first, I just want to mention the board members that are here and briefly talk about some of the areas they work on. We all wear lots of hats, but we have Gary Nelson's vice chair. He works on memorials, hardscape issues, also liaison with the Open Space Trust Fund. Ginny Kirshen, who also worked on memorials. She provides expertise in preservation issues and now does membership. Kathy Coleman, who has done all our communications and outreach and does our newsletter, has done our membership and set up our website and does research on projects. Susan Newberry, who's our township historian and is our go-to person on historical research. Dennis Percher, who also chairs the South Mountain Conservancy, and he's our guru on how to operate a nonprofit. And he also keeps me on the straight and narrow when it comes to content and presentation. So I expect to hear from Dennis later tonight. We also have Laura Tomlin, who is our volunteer coordinator, Reading Wednesdays, and she also does public programs. She does also design and outreach. And I just want to mention that this is one of several photos that Laura took that I'll use in this presentation tonight. And this is an area of the park. The reason I put it up is because it's a beautiful area that is less visited. This is the Rockery, which is on the eastern side of the library. And it just shows the beauty of our landscape. And it also kind of reminds me of a neoclassical landscape. I just have this vision of, you know, Zeus and Hera descending from the clouds and alighting on our little sundial. So,
that might have happened later.
It could have, yes. So I also want to mention also here is Nancy Adams, who's our township liaison, and she's a great advocate for the park, and she just gets stuff done. So thank you, Nancy.
I try.
Also here is David Nile, who recently retired from the board, and was our landscape chair, and I'll mention more about David later, as well as Jennifer Ryan, who is just interlaced throughout this whole presentation. So here's a simple, simple agenda. We're going to talk about a little bit about the park and what the Conservancy does, Treasurer's report. We're going to elect our 2021 officers. We're going to give you a rundown of what we've been up to and what we hope to accomplish going forward. And in the end, we'll have some time if there are any questions. And if you want to put those in the chat, Dennis is going to curate that discussion. So that'll be at the end. And then we'll tell you how you can get involved with the Conservancy. So our mission, this is an abbreviated version of our mission, but basically our mission is to preserve, maintain, and improve Maplewood Memorial Park. And that's kind of in the context of its place in the community, its historical importance, and its integrity of design. So as many of you may know, Memorial Park is not only beloved, but is also a local landmark and is listed in the National and New Jersey Register of Historic Places. It was designed in the picturesque style in the 1920s. And you can see that characteristics in the winding paths, and that's my dog, and winding paths and rolling hills, meadows, long vistas, copses of trees, and water features. So it was designed by, in combination with two famous firms, the more famous Olmsted Brothers firm but also the prominent firm of Brindley and Holbrook. And then it was stewarded through much of the 20th century by noted horticulturalist Richard Walter. So here you can see on the right side, this is the monument that dedicated the park, dedicated it to those who fell in World War I. And that was dedicated in 1931. And that monument is on the hill on Baker Street, right across from the ball fields. So in 2014, a master plan for the park was commissioned by the Historic Preservation Commission and recommended that an organization be formed to care for and advocate for this important but aging park in a time of limited municipal resources. So we started meeting shortly after that, and in 2017 we formed a nonprofit, and so we're 3 years in, and I think we've accomplished a lot of things in that time. So first, just the business end. This is our treasurer's report, and as you can see, we had kind of a good year in terms of income and expenses. Some of that income came in and went out for landscape project. And you'll also see that we have two areas, a general fund and a tree fund. And so I'll talk more about that later, but the tree fund are funds that are dedicated funds for generated by memorials. And they're for the most part, stay in those funds, and they're designated for maintenance and replacement of those trees. So without further ado, next we are going to elect our officers, and a slate went out to our membership a couple of weeks ago. So Dennis is going to moderate that, and we're going to hopefully do it pretty quickly. So I turn it over to Dennis.
Well, thank you. We're going to use two things at the bottom of your screen. If you put your cursor down under reactions on the bottom, if you raise your hand, that means that you're in agreement with the slate. We're assuming all of the people on the call are members. We're not going to do a check right now. So if you click on the raise hand, I then can give a count. There's no counterpart to that. So if anyone objects in the chat, which is off to the side, if you put in no, type in no, then I'll have that, I'll be able to count that as an objection or a nay. So if any people could raise their hands, and I could go through. No, David, you're raising your hand, but I want you to click on the reactions at the bottom, but that's okay. Raising his hand, which is fine.
I think since there's no other nominations,
Well, you can.
You're stuck again for another year. And as someone who knows what that feels like, I appreciate everyone who's stepping up to be on this slate. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and
it is.
And the park has really done well under the stewardship of this group, and I'm there as a kind of an adjunct, but there really been some really hard workers, Deborah, David, and company.
I agree with you, Dennis.
And so forth. Okay, so there are people that I do not see the reaction. So if you want Bob McCoy, Ellen L's phone, whoever that is, Peter Samios, I'm going to make assumptions that Peter Samios has clicked on the thumbs up. We're waiting.
I feel like this is a horse race, Dennis.
And I know, but that's fine. Okay, and Ellen L.
This is Ellen, but I'm not a member yet, so I'm
okay, that's fine.
Observer tonight.
Okay, one.
I'm just going to say you got enough votes because there's nobody running against them.
Five. All right, hold on. All right, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, I think I have.
Okay, are we in?
Yeah, I think so. I think we had 12 yes and 0 abstentions. I think I counted you as a positive, Deborah. So although I didn't see a reaction. All
Okay.
right.
All right. The ayes have it then.
All right. So
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna put my
Dennis.
hand down.
sure. And there were no negative chats, so I just want to let you know. Okay.
Great. So thank you all, and we'll do our best to keep the Conservancy moving forward. So just to get on with it, I just want to start, since we didn't have a meeting during the pandemic, just start where we kind of started before the pandemic hit. And so in 2019, we had just completed our major landscaping project that was Flagpole Hill, installed in 4 phases and funded by the Open Space Trust Fund. And this is a series of planted beds based on original Olmsted plans in 1923, and adapted by our then postgraduate and still wonderful landscape consultant, Jennifer Ryan. So as you can see here, this is a phase 3 bed right across from the Claris. And here is the plan as it was built for the project. So you can see these kind of undulating beds. So the other thing was we did conduct our summer internship, and part of that program that year included participating in planting and the installation of that project. This is Nolan Rich and Jeremy Johnson, and that was a very hot summer that they spent in the park. And here I'd just like to acknowledge the intern team that joins us, Jennifer, Laura, and David Nile. So thank you. So then life as we know it came to a halt. And I think then we were all reminded just how much this place means to us all in terms of the community, and really how it kind of fulfills what Frederick Law Olmsted, the elder Olmsted, talked about in his goals for Central Park, which is to give tranquility and rest to the mind. So I just want to point out on the left, this is a bird watching program that was conducted by Laura and led by Robin Morey, and she's Essex County's top birder. And this was a very small public program given social distancing and quarantine requirements. And I just want to thank Robin as a great friend of the Conservancy. And I thank her for her perspective, which is really very helpful to me, because it reminds me that the park is not only for flora, but also is a home to wildlife. And I think it, informs or should inform our planting and maintenance plans as well. So these are just other ways people use the park during the pandemic. Sledding, this was a beautiful little wedding, and this is a Black Lives Matter event at the park. So, looking back, we all wondered at that time just how much we would be able to get done during the pandemic. And, as it turns out, it was quite a lot. And we conducted another summer internship. We continued weeding Wednesdays. We performed landscape restoration projects, continued the memorial tree program, had the public program, safe public program I just explained, and perhaps most important, our tree replacement master plan was approved. And this here on the right is our secret society of Weeding Wednesday. So our summer internship was slightly different. It was shortened. this year, and it had its limitations, but we had an intern from Rutgers. We usually work with Rutgers Landscape Program, Megan Schneed, and she had a great summer. She worked masked and very hard, removing invasives, pruning, and doing some design work. And she was also really a lovely person to work with. So we were also able to get done, some landscape projects. I don't want to end show. Bear with me here. So this was a small project that took forever, and so it became like a pet peeve of mine. And this was to replace the old bike rack at the top of our phase 1 flagpole hill beds with handsome bike bollards. And no one uses them anymore, but they do look really nice. So, and we were able to accomplish a fairly large landscape restoration project around the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And this was a memorial that was installed in 2011. It was a project by Todd Lamb, who was former Parks and Shade Tree Supervisor and also a Vietnam vet. And it was designed as part of the 2018 summer internship under the direction of Jennifer Ryan. And we were able to get generous funding from the Maplewood VFW and some additional funds donated by the Garden Club and other monies we had. So it was an inexpensive project because we installed it ourselves, and we had a lot of help from our good friends at the Maplewood DPW, who did all the heavy lifting and did all the soil amendment. So this is how it looked when we started over here on the left, and it was pretty degraded. This is how it looked newly planted. And these are just construction shots. And that's our crew. It's Laura, Gary, Jennifer, Shannon Perry, David, myself, and at the camera is Scott Cooper. So also at the, you can see at the bottom right is the concept drawing. So that's an example of the kind of thing that we have to submit for approvals. And I just want to point out that everything we do in the park goes through a really extended, substantial approval process. And we present detailed plans, rationale, historical info. We present it to the township, then we present it to the Maplewood Historic Preservation Commission, and then on to the State Office of Historic Preservation, where we apply for project authorization for approval on the appropriateness of the project to the historic site. The other major landscape project that what happened was a planting of 8 new crabapple trees. That restoration of a crabapple grove that's in the northern end of the park, right across from the firehouse. And these trees were lovingly planned, selected, sourced, and installed by David Nile. And sadly, this is his capstone project with MMPC, and he's retiring from the board as of 2021. And the loss of his energy and his knowledge and his love of trees in the park just can't be replaced. So we are going to celebrate this project on May 1st of this year. So probably the project with the most far-reaching project was the approval of an enormous tree replacement master plan, in which 600 trees in the park were evaluated for health, all at risk identified, which were sadly 1/3 of them, and suitable replacements identified. And this is all the work of Jennifer Ryan, and in a minute, I will just take a little more time to tell you about her. But I just wanted to tell you that this just gives us a roadmap for all future planting, going out approved 5 years and in theory 10 years. And it was used already as a basis for a forthcoming planting of 50 new trees this spring. So the township came to us and said they had open space trust money for trees and said, do you have a plan? And we said, yes, we do. And so we immediately could identify what trees were most needed, what species, where they needed to go. And so it's getting done this spring. So some of these are to replace trees that have already died, or to plant trees in anticipation of larger trees that are at risk of dying. And here's a map of what will happen in the spring. So these are new plantings, all these white dots. So now here's my slide. Jennifer Ryan. Hooray. Jennifer is, I'm so glad she's on the phone tonight because, you know, I just have to give a shout out to her. She's worked with us for the past few years, and she's really changed the nature of how the management of the park. And she's charted our course for the future. She's really changed the face of the park with landscape projects that she's designed. And there she is, planting on Flagpole Hill. She also digs in the dirt every Wednesday with the Weeding Wednesday people. So Jennifer, we can't thank you enough. So we also were able to accomplish ongoing projects, and one of those is the Memorial Tree Program. I mentioned that earlier. We have, as I mentioned, we have tree funds in an account that makes provision for future maintenance and replacement. The process is now standardized. This was Ginny and Gary did this, and established levels of giving depending on how big the trees are and their projected growth and that kind of thing. So 11 trees are dedicated to date, and that's also guided by the tree replacement plan. So other ongoing projects are maintaining the park, Weeding Wednesdays, and that happens, it's pruning, weeding, going out there and digging into the park every Wednesday throughout the year from 9 a.m. to 11. Laura, Jennifer, David are workhorses, and they work in the worst conditions. I'm always afraid of getting that text on a Wednesday morning in December that says, we're out there, come join us, because it's 20 degrees, you know. But anyway, so they do great work. And we'll do the summer internship again this year, and that we're doing conducting interviews next week for that. We have a few candidates. And in the future hardscape, we've already done some preliminary work on planning for replacement of benches, and also in the pipeline is just recommendations for future maybe historic lighting. So what's up next in 2021? Our next project, which has gone through design and research planning phase, and actually was approved last night at the Historic Preservation Commission, is to enhance one of our gateways. And this is across from the train station at Donnell Road. This plan is to upgrade this rather dreary little triangle, which is the entrance to our park, but its most significant features right now are a trash can and a emergency call box. So here's the planting plan, of course, also by Jennifer. And this, just to show you the kind of documents that we have to submit. This is the historic precedent. So this is a planting plan by Brindley and Holbrook from 1928. And we don't know what was planted here, but we know it was intended to be planted. So here, there's a boulder and a plaque that shows the National Registry listing, and also talks about the architects and the dedication date. The plantings around it are designed for seasonal interest, and so there are evergreens and daffodils, and so we hope that'll be a nice upgrade. And we'll also plant that ourselves, so with the help of the DPW. And next up is for us to submit that to the state. And also next up immediately in 2021 is on May 15th, we're going to have our first Painting in the Park event. And Laura Tomlin, who's also an artist, is spearheading this event. And there are going to be about 20 artists who are going to paint at various locations throughout the park, and the public is encouraged to come stroll, enjoy the landscape, and watch people paint.
Hey.
So that's our immediate, that was our immediate future. That's what's up in the queue. And I just wanted to go over very briefly some future plans, things that are in the pipeline. Here is a proposal for the area of the park next to the basketball court. And Jennifer has a plan here to replace dying trees and vegetation in that area, and also plant along the swale, which is the creek that comes out here. And hopefully we can get some funding for that project, because you know, it's planting mitigates runoff because the creek goes right into the river, and plus it's just will be beautiful. So that's in the early stages. Here's another early stage project, and that is to continue to enhance the gateways the way we're doing at Donnell Road. And you can see this is along Valley Street, some significant plantings, and along the replacement of trees along Oakview. Sorry. So here you can see, you know, kind of the thought process and how Jennifer kind of presents plans for our discussion and our input. And this on the top is a there's a plan from Brindley and Holbrook from 1928. And this is what it would have looked like. These are the existing conditions, which you see are really kind of haphazard and not cohesive. And these are, you know, preliminary ideas for how to replace that border or restore or enhance that border. But given that when we evaluate these plans, we make sure we take into account climate change and site conditions and suitability, and also the needs of park goers. So here, for example, when we were all talking about it with Jennifer, some of the things we considered was access to the playing fields, and also how to shield park goers from a very busy roadway on Valley. We'd like to continue or start to work really on shrub restoration, which is a real need in the park. And here's an area by the confluence, which is where the Crooked Brook and the East Branch of the Rahway River meet, kind of behind the library. And this is an area where there's been an old ancient lacrosse cage that's not been used for years. So it was taken out a couple of months ago. And this plan here is for restoration of a shrub border along that area and throughout there. And we have precedents for that in both Olmsted plans and Brindley and Holbrook plans. And it also lets us experiment with an idea that some of us are fond of, and that is to create a conservation plot. This is from an article published in Indigenous Landscapes in 2019. And these are like little ash tree nurseries. And we have 34 ash trees in the park, I think 34. And the biggest of which is our signature ash on the hill of the amphitheater. And as you all may know, they're all in danger from a pest, an emerald ash borer. So this conservation plot allows you to grow up little ash tree seedlings and set seed, and hopefully in the future find some resistant species. And it also provides a thicket for wildlife. So that's kind of what we're doing in the park. And I want to end by just saying that, just reporting on some initiatives the township will be working on in the next couple of years. And these are some really significant repairs. All three of our beautiful bridges unfortunately need replacing. And the Civic House needs extensive repair. And I also want to mention here, I've just, maybe Susan can confirm this later, but I think all three bridges have been replaced at several points in their history. I don't think any one of them is original.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So first
Many
up,
times.
yeah. So first up to be rebuilt will be the Civic House Bridge. And so the township and the architects have worked with the Historic Preservation Commission, and we've been at the table as well to develop a historically sensitive plan. And what you see here at the left is that the intent is to revert to an earlier plan as much as possible. And these are Brindley and Holbrook plans from the 1920s. And below that is a sketch of the new bridge. So of course, modern safety standards mean modifications. So the railings must be higher. Steel cables will have to be installed between the balusters to shorten the length. And other modifications have to be made. The railings will be made of Alaskan cedar in a process called glulam, which is a piece of wood laminated, and that kind of allows you that curve, which you used to achieve by steaming the wood, but will allow you the curve that on each of these bridges. So that construction starts in the next few weeks, and the bridge will be inaccessible for a few weeks there. The plans for the new Duck Pond and Library Bridge will also be based on the older Brindley and Holbrook plans, but they're still in discussion. The Duck Pond Bridge will follow this one probably maybe next fall, and the Library Bridge probably in 2022. So finally, the repairs to the Civic House are going out to bid shortly. And this you can see the Civic House, which was built in 1929 by a local architect, Charles Grant. And this is probably the building in its heyday. And as you can see, I'm sorry, on the right, and on the left, you can see how far it's fallen. So it needs a lot of work. The phase one of the repairs will be repointing, chimney repairs, roofing repairs, that kind of thing. And next, site drainage, painting, and waterproofing may have to be in phase two. To do this phase two project, we are going to have to remove probably almost all of the foliage from the perimeter of the building. So right now we're trying to work on how to mitigate that loss, because it's going to be a substantial difference in the look of the building. So that's what's been going on. And I just want to say we've been able to get done that with a very, very small group of people. And to move forward in the future and to get more things done that we really want to do, we need to expand. We need more people to do more things. So we encourage you to follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, our webpage. It's not so great, but it's okay. And sign up for our e-newsletter. It's bi-monthly. And please become a member. It's only $25 a year, and it's a great cause. But also, I think, more importantly, we need your time and talent. We can use board members. Anybody wants to join the board, we meet one Thursday a month. We currently meet in the morning, but we can maybe be flexible. If you can't join the board, can't make meetings, please think about contributing your skills, communications, fundraising, membership, design, horticulture, or if you just like to dig in the dirt, we have all those opportunities for you. And that's our contact information. It's very long, so I will leave it up on the screen, info@MaplewoodMemorialParkConservancy.org. And thanks for Zooming with us tonight. And I will see if there are any questions, Dennis, we can.
There's only, let's see, Nancy reminded me to push record, which I did. And then Peter Samios said that one of the things he loves about the park is the diversity of plantings. He noticed that some of the trees have name cards, but the remainder of the plantings, he haven't seen those cards. Is there any plan to have these plantings labeled? Also, it would be nice to have some informative plaques placed around the park with more information about how these plantings, for example, how to plant them, how they will work best, and any other relative information.
We have some ideas about doing that kind of thing, and in some ways digitally. Jennifer has an app where you can put it on your phone and you can identify the tree as you walk up to it. We also are thinking, and this was an idea Laura is very fond of having a mechanism for pointing your phone at a certain area and you can get the information on your phone. I think for the historic park, it's difficult to create a whole lot of signage, physical signage, although we are planning some up by Flagpole Hill and some by the Vietnam Vets Memorial. But we're also hoping to do some, significant digital work on identifying things in the park too.
There are no other questions. There's a thank you from Nancy Adams, and I will add that my own. I think this is a comprehensive presentation, Deborah, and it takes time to put this together. Very good job.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. Is there anything else?
No,
I just want to thank you from the Township Committee and the Township. I know I'm the face and voice you see the most with regard to the Conservancy, but I actually don't think people really understand and the amount of work, and I hope we can get this recording so that we can share it on the municipal website and municipal Facebook page. I think, for what it's worth, for anyone who wants to like happen by it and be like, oh, I had no idea. Like, really, none of us has in general life, right? We're all, going about our own busy lives, and we don't realize not only the importance of what the work of the Conservancy does, but the amount of work that everyone on this board puts in, but the thoughtfulness that goes behind these projects to appreciate the historic integrity and to just save this for let's face it, most of us won't be here when we see that replenishing of the trees by like the basketball courts, like they'll all be babies when we're in nursing homes, so I just think it's I just think it just warms my heart. It feels really good because I think from when I moved here almost 32 years ago, the park has changed significantly in the loss of mature trees and the fact that we have a very dedicated group here working on this every month and every day of every month. I don't want you to think that your work is not recognized or appreciated, because it very much is. So that's all I
Thank
want
you.
to say.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Jennifer
Thank you.
makes us all look good.
That's right.
No. Yeah, but you all, I know what you're doing. So yeah, it's all of you. So
Where do you think that the recording could go, Nancy? I think that would be a great idea.
I think you should like release it wherever, send this recording to, News Record. They can do an article. You just had a nice article in the Maplewood Matters or Matters Magazine, and then, Village Green.
You meant the actual video, yeah.
Yeah, just they can watch it, for a half hour and get a full news report,
Yeah, and
what's
Nancy,
getting out there.
your support on the township committee is, and your diligence in coming to the meetings and so forth is really appreciated. There's a sense that you really care and are fighting to get X, Y, Z done and move things along. So that's appreciated by the board here also.
Yes,
Very
for
much.
sure.
Very much. So thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well,
Good
thank you
night.
for tuning in. Dennis, thank you for your expertise on this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Okay,
Right,
good
be
night.
well,
Good night,
stay
everyone.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Deb.
your evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jennifer.
Bye-bye. Nice to
Bye,
see you.
Jennifer. Good night, everybody. How do I get out of here?
How do I get out of here? I don't know.
You're stuck.
He was talking Drake. That's okay.
All right.